Whenever we talk about housing affordability, our minds immediately jump to the usual stuff, right? Mortgage rates, supply, how much it costs to build. But what if I told you there's a massive, hidden cost that most of us are completely ignoring? A threat that can make a home unaffordable in the most gut-wrenching way possible.
So, let's just ask a really basic question. What's the real cost of buying a home? It's not just about the price tag you see online. See, true affordability has to factor in the risks that can turn the biggest investment of your entire life into a complete and total financial nightmare. And this is the perfect way to look at it. Over on the left, you've got all the numbers we see and talk about constantly. But on the right, that's the threat we don't see: real estate fraud. I mean, think about it. What does affordability even mean if you can't be 100% sure you actually own your home? And this is where things get really scary. We're diving into the fraud nightmare itself, where that American dream of owning a home can be completely shattered by criminals you never, ever see coming. So, how big is this problem? Well, the scale is just immense. According to the FBI, Americans lost a staggering $175 million to real estate fraud in just the last year. That number is huge, but honestly, the real story is much more personal. Because behind that giant number are individual families. $143,000. That's the average fraud claim cost. Just try to imagine your entire life savings, every penny you scrape together for your down payment, just gone. For most families, a hit like that is absolutely unrecoverable. And listen, these aren't simple, obvious scams. We're talking about highly sophisticated criminal rings. For wire fraud, for example, a criminal sends you an email. It looks exactly like it's from your title company, but with one tiny change of the account number. You make one click, and your entire down payment vanishes. That's how quick and devastating it can be. And that's just one of the ways they get you. So you're probably wondering, if the threat is this bad, why isn't this happening on every single sale? Well, that's where the unsung guardians of the system come in. There's this whole protective infrastructure that most of us never even realize exists. These guardians are called title professionals, and you can pretty much think of them as the financial detectives of the real estate world. Long before you ever get the keys to your new home, they are digging through decades of public records, searching for any red flags, any hidden issues that could put your ownership at risk. This process is just a critical safeguard. So first, they're combing through decades of records, looking for old debts or errors. Then, they identify these hidden risks, like maybe a forged signature from 30 years ago. Their whole job is to stop fraud before you even sit down at that closing table, so that your ownership is secure from day one. And look, it all comes down to this really simple, fundamental promise of homeownership. You're not just buying a house, you're buying the peace of mind that what you bought is truly 100% yours, with no hidden claims or nasty surprises waiting for you down the road. Okay, but let's be real. What if one of these incredibly sophisticated criminal schemes actually gets through? That's where title insurance comes into play. It acts as the final safety net, giving you financial protection against that hidden risk of fraud and any other issues with your ownership. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Okay, this sounds bad, but it's probably just an issue for a few unlucky people, right? Well, not exactly. These individual crimes create a ripple effect that puts the entire housing system at risk. The logic here is actually pretty simple. When these consumer protections are weakened or removed, the risk doesn't just, vanish. It gets passed on. The costs shift directly to consumers, whether it's through losing their homes or fighting unbelievably expensive legal battles. And this chart here shows you exactly how that domino effect works. When fraud risk goes up, lenders, well, they get nervous and they tighten their credit standards. That means it suddenly becomes harder and more expensive to get a loan. And who pays the price for that? Most often, it's first-time homebuyers. So here's the bottom line. A market that can't protect its own participants from crime is eventually going to fail. It loses trust, it loses stability, and it stops being accessible to the very people it's supposed to be for. Fraud prevention isn't some side issue. It's absolutely core to the health of the whole market. Okay, so this brings us to the real path forward. And honestly, the most important takeaway from all of this. Affordability and protection are not competing priorities. They are two sides of the very same coin. Sometimes you'll hear policymakers frame this as a choice. Should we make housing cheaper or should we make it safer? But that's just a false choice. It's completely the wrong way to think about it. The reality is you simply cannot have true affordability without having strong protection in place.
So the real path forward, it's actually crystal clear. It's not about cutting protections to try and save a few bucks. It's about strengthening the guardrails, all those systems and professionals that keep every single transaction safe and shield families from these devastating hidden risks.
And ultimately, it all leaves us with this one really important question. The American dream isn't just some abstract idea about owning property. It's about the people, the dreamers, who are working so hard to achieve it. And any serious housing policy has to focus on protecting them first.